Next, we're going to get into some specifics about why I think it's a bad idea, setting aside the constitutionality of the issue and talking about some other things that I think make the military pretty well unsuited for doing law enforcement here in America. So when I decided to pursue law enforcement as a career back in the 1990s, it was a process that took 6 to 9 to 12 months of preliminary investigations of candidates and psychological tests and written tests and physical ability tests to determine if a candidate was a good person to bring into the hiring process prior to even receiving any sort of training. And the psychological tests and the interviews that you do and talking with psychologists and other law enforcement professionals who are already doing the job are designed to weed out people who are unsuited for the job. And they do catch a lot, or probably most, people who are bigots, who are racists, who are misogynists, who want to be police officers because they want to wield the power of the badge and be sort of able to do anything that they want to because they're a cop and nobody else can say that they can't do it. So the hiring process is rigorous and it takes a long time to get through that process. And once you are sort of vetted and through that process and an agency hires you or offers you a position, the agency then sends you to the police academy. So when I went to the police academy, it was at the time a 21-week long course. And the majority of what you are doing in the police academy has to do with learning about law and learning constitutional law, learning how to do investigations, learning how to do interviews and interrogations under the law, how to write court documents, how to write police reports, how to do accident investigations, how to deal with child abuse situations, how to deal with domestic violence and abuse situations, how to protect yourself while doing the job, how to conduct traffic stops safely. Use of force policy is huge, and you'll get dropped out of the police academy very, very quickly if you don't learn all of those things. You get to do a test once, and there's a minimum standard that's quite high, actually, of passing. And if you don't hit that minimum standard, you get to take one remedial test to see if you can improve your score. And if you don't, you're gone. And if you don't meet the requirements of the other courses that are being taught, like arrest control techniques and driving and firearms use and handcuffing techniques and all of the things, you have to show that you are capable of doing them at a very high level and doing them safely. And also making sure that you know what your responsibilities are in relation to the Constitution and the laws that are established to protect the rights of the people that you as a police officer are protecting and serving. So after the 21-week police academy, you went to then the field training program, which was a 14-week long process where you were assigned as a rookie cop with a series of experienced officers who were specially trained to bring new officers up to speed, to evaluate their performance in the field under actual law enforcement conditions, and to make recommendations about whether or not somebody was suitable to, in fact, continue on and become a police officer. So during that time, you spent the first couple of weeks more as an observer. You were in uniform, you were there, you provided backup if needed, and you watched how an experienced officer conducted themselves and conducted investigations and did all of the police functions. And then over the course of 14 weeks, you eventually took over the role as being the primary officer, and your training officer then became the observer. And after the end of the 14 weeks, recommendations were made actually throughout the program as to whether somebody was suitable to continue on with the agency and to continue their career path into becoming a police officer. At the end of the 14 weeks, then there was an additional sort of 1 year probationary period where if you did something you weren't supposed to, you got fired. And so you had to prove then for another whole year that you were capable of doing the job to the standards that they expected, that you weren't going to violate people's rights, that you were going to operate safely, that you weren't going to endanger the public or your fellow officers while you were performing the job. And so it was pretty much a 2 year process, 2.5 year process, really, to become fully vetted as a police officer in California in the 90s. And I think those standards have gone up even higher. The training, I think, is even more rigorous at this point, although I have not kept up with exactly what the current requirements are for police officers in the United States. As my career continued, you do continuing education throughout your career in various subjects. And when I became an investigator, there were additional interviews, additional psychological tests, additional training that occurred throughout my time as an investigator to make sure that you knew how to do the job that you were doing at that time and how to conduct the investigations in the areas that you were focused on, and to make sure that the cases that you were building as an investigator were going to meet the constitutional standards necessary to take the cases to trial and win, so that people who were committing crimes received the appropriate punishment as dictated by the court system. So it's really important to have people on the street who have gone through that training to be able to do law enforcement here in America. The military doesn't receive any of that training, none of it, really. There are, I think, some discussions about getting some people within the National Guard community brought up to speed on some of those things. But by and large, folks who are in the National Guard or who are in the military have no training on any of that.